Up until very recently, you could not find me on the internet, a picture. Even if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I have sunglasses on. So this is one of the rare interviews where you get to see who I am. My name is Michael Fabozzi. I was born and raised in New York, and I worked as a detective for the NYPD. I wasn't one of those kids that grew up and always wanted to be a cop. I actually grew up thinking that I would work on Wall Street. I went to college to study business, and beginning of my sophomore year, my dad lost his job, and I thought it was a good idea maybe to quit college at that point, help out my parents, and then go back to school at some point. But as soon as I got my gun and badge, I thought it was just a great job. I loved it. Working in the 3-0 precinct, I was transferred to One Police Plaza, which is the NYPD headquarters. And I was asked to join a specialized unit called the Special Frauds Squad.
We arrested quite a few people, and we put quite a few people away. And it's quite interesting. Yeah, I always enjoyed working with Mike. He's a gentleman.
Special Frauds was involved in all types of bank fraud, security fraud, even art fraud.
Mike became very good with the computers. He was very computer literate and very good with the computers.
The security department had no idea what I was talking about. I was asking for an IP address where the incoming request was made, and they were looking at me like I was speaking another language at that time.
Computers can be tricky, and I find that you get a little older, I kind of resist computers because I was always used to a typewriter, but he was very good with the computers.
One of the things that made him so good and what he enjoyed was he was actually one of the first people to go into computer forensics and identity theft. Before, they had computer people working those cases. They didn't have somebody who was an investigator.
Throughout my career, I was prescient in what the next step was, like ID theft in the 90s, before there was even a term ID theft. Then online fraud, credit card fraud, online banking fraud.
I don't think I would have ever asked him to move if I thought that he wasn't the kind of person who could replant himself.
I guess like most people who come to Silicon Valley, I got involved in startup work. I'm an advisor to a startup. It's a pretty cool app company, and it's called Sketch Factor. It's using crowdsourcing to tell you the sketchiness of a neighborhood.
This app really is perfect for him because it's really the overlay of law enforcement and crime, yet being kind of a very cool thing. It's really fun for him.
One of the cool things about Silicon Valley is there's a little bit of magic, and there's a little bit of changing the world. Being in law enforcement, there is the chance that you may not come home that night. It's always in the back of your mind, that you won't make it home. I think there's a lot of decompartmentalization in your brain. You get to see things that other people hopefully don't get to ever see, as far as death and hurt and people in the worst of times. People don't call us when things are good.
You wouldn't think that somebody who lived that life and saw that part of society would continue to be an optimistic human being, and he really is. There are so many cops and firemen on Staten Island that he doesn't think it's that special sometimes, what he did.
I had a job to do, and I was ready to do it, and that's what we do.
Everybody loves Michael. And I think we call it his ability to chameleon. He's quite the chameleon. So he can put people at ease because he can immediately sort of relate to them.
He's very personable. He got along with everybody, and he was very good at what he did.
Who was Michael Fabozzi? That he was a good guy, he was a hard worker, he was honest, that he cared for others, that he cares for his family, that he's a giver. That was the legacy that I learned from my dad. No matter who I ran into throughout his life, he was a good guy. He was a gentleman. It says so much.
He's a gentleman.
He's a gentleman.